Hello everyone, tonight on our program, government resolves to reduce margins on petroleum price build-up by 15 pesos a litre from the 1st of April.
Mitigate the impact of the rising price of petroleum products at the pump for the next 3 months, government has decided to reduce margins in petroleum price build-up by a total of 15 pesos per litre with effect from 1st April.
We'll have more on measures taken by the finance minister to address the economic hardship faced by Ghanaians as government plans to save some 3.5 billion cedis from cost-cutting measures.
With regards to savings, in terms of initial calculations of all of that, will be about 3.5 billion Ghana cedis that we expect to be able to save.
Also tonight, Ministry of Food and Agriculture partnering a Moroccan fertilizer company to set up a $2 billion fertilizer manufacturing plant in Ghana to deal with supply challenges.
We should be able to, given what is happening to the world fertilizer market, we should be able to attract the right investment to start the construction of a fertilizer plant in Ghana. This is a huge investment. We are talking about anything around $2 billion United States dollars.
Thanks for joining us. We've got details of these stories and others coming up. Stay tuned. And thanks for staying with us. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Let's begin with today's big story, that press briefing by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and government has resolved to reduce margins in the petroleum price build-up by a total of 15 pesos a litre with effect from the 1st of April this year. The reduction in margins is expected to reduce prices of petrol by 1.6% and diesel by 1.4%. Now, this is part of measures to help mitigate the impact of the rising price of petroleum products at the pumps for the next 3 months. The Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced this at a press briefing here in Accra as part of measures being instituted by government to help address the current economic challenges.
Ladies and gentlemen, the rising prices of fuel at the pumps is influenced largely by the rising crude oil price on the international market and the exchange rate depreciation. Though the rise in crude oil prices should have been to our benefit on net basis, Ghana's import of petroleum products amounts to 5.2 times the value of proceeds from its crude oil exports. In 2021, for example, we exported $3.947 billion of crude, of which Ghana's portion was $513 million. However, we imported $2,719 of crude and finished products. So the purported windfall gain in foreign exchange is quite a mirage. From January to date, the average export price of diesel and petrol have increased by 57% and 45% respectively. Unlike in other countries where the hike in crude oil prices and exchange rate volatility are leading to shortages in supply of petroleum products, government is implementing measures to guarantee constant supply of petroleum products. To mitigate the impact of the rising price of petroleum products at the pump for the next 3 months, government has decided to reduce margins in petroleum price build-up by a total of 15 pesos per litre with effect from 1st April. The details are as follows: bus margin reduced by 2 pesos per litre, Unified Petroleum Pricing Fund margin reduced by 9 pesos per litre, fuel marking margin reduced by 1 peso per litre, primary distribution margin reduced by 3 pesos per litre. Ladies and gentlemen, these reductions in margins are expected to reduce prices of petrol by 1.6% and diesel by 1.4%. We anticipate that the measures taken to strengthen the currency will help further stabilize the prices at the pump.
Well, here with reaction is Duncan Amwa, who is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana. Good evening to you, Duncan. I've been reading bits of what you think about this, and you're not happy at all.
I'm not certain most Ghanaians are happy with the finance minister's announcements. Other interventions, very good, but the expectations we had for petrol price reductions or interventions have not been met in any way, shape, or form.
What were your expectations?
We had a meeting with the finance minister and two of his deputies, together with the energy minister and the deputy, the boss of the National Petroleum Authority, the chamber bulk oil distribution companies, the whole board, Elton Ducey and Madame Ivy, together with Senor Hosi, were present. At the said meeting, we had some discussion, and based on that discussion, the understanding we got was that a good number of the taxes were going to be reduced. But if you go through what the finance minister has just announced, he has rather not taxes. He rather decided to go for the margin. So you have fuel market margin that has been tackled by a PESWA. You also have what you call UPPF that has gone down by 9 PESWAs. The problem these margins reductions is going to create for the industry we'll be seeing in the coming days. But overall, we expected the finance minister to look at a tax like the special petroleum tax, which clearly has outlived its purpose for which we introduced it. Again, a tax like the price stabilization and recovery levy, which clearly is also not serving the very purpose for which we took it to Parliament. If you want to stabilize fuel prices and prices are already high, you don't continue charging 14 and 16 pesos for both diesel and petrol and call it, a stabilization levy. And so what has been done, the finance minister went for margins, which are operator, I should say, numbers, and not any of the taxes. And so the taxes which are in higher digits, 46 pesos for special petroleum tax, energy sector levy 20 pesos, sanitation and pollution alone 10 pesos. Quite a good number of these taxes that we had proposed to be halved. The finance minister did no such thing to ensure that the government is giving back to the public. Rather, it is the margins of operators, especially BOST and UPPF, the transport operators, that seem to have rather been touched. Not good enough. Not good enough.
Well, for a government that is broke, this reduction of 15 pesos a litre on the margins is a good first step, don't you think? Plus, the finance minister indicated they were going to engage the OMCs again for further reduction.
I do not think that any of the OMCs would have any such discussion. The numbers we see with them, I can comfortably tell you that they are already taking a shave. And that is why, if you check the pumps, there are a lot of disparities in pump prices. Some of them would have to reduce their margins so drastically in order to be able to even sell, right? And so for those who are already taking a shave, for those getting finances for their investments, we are asking them to take further shave. But the government that is not investing a thing, right? The government that is also making windfalls on international benchmarks is now discussing windfalls in light of our total import bill for petroleum and petroleum products. What we say is that what we import, we sell at full cost recovery plus taxes. And so an import bill of 2.4 billion It's something that the Ghanaian public already pay for together with taxes. It doesn't even come into the conversation. What you are getting from our crude exports is something that you do not have to do anything to get it. It's something that Talo would have to do its work. It's a function of international market price. So if you made 500 million last year because crude was hovering averagely around $78, $80.
Right.
This year, demonstrating $100+ averagely. What it means is that you would make more, right? Yet, when you are discussing issues of windfall, we would rather want to juxtapose our import bill of 2.4 billion with the $500 million that we received from our exports. The two are not coterminous, the two are exclusive, and the two should be treated as such. What we import is paid for fully together with taxes, and government makes no losses whatsoever over these importations that the PDCs do engage in day in, day out.
Not good enough, you say. Thanks very much for your thoughts tonight. Duncan Amwa, he is Executive Secretary of COPEC Ghana, reacting to the reduction in fuel prices, the price of the build-up on petrol, that is by 15 pesos a litre. Well, let's get back to the press conference, because the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has indicated that the government is expected to save some 3.5 billion cedis from the new economic measures announced.
Refining capacity. I know that the Ministry of Energy and TOR are working on various plans to see how we can build a new refinery, either private sector or PPP, etc. So that certainly is an appropriate idea to be shared. With regards to savings, I mean, in terms of initial calculations of all of that, will be about 3.5 billion Ghana cedis that we expect to be able to save. But we'll keep titrating and tightening it and ensure that we get as much from that as possible. The contingency funds that was mentioned, good idea, but you really need, we already have our heritage funds, etc. And at this juncture with the crisis, there's very little to add on to. But certainly, we're always looking for ways in which you can build stock for the future.
Well, joining us tonight, Yao Latte, his partner at Deloitte Ghana. Great to have you on the program, Yao. And before we talk about the measures that were announced by the Finance Minister, how significant is the 3.5 billion cedis he says we are going to save as a result of the measures that he announced today?
Yes, good evening to you. I think the expenditure of the savings in the expenditure cap is quite significant, given the fact that e-levy alone was expected to yield at the maximum 6 billion. And so if that was supposed to whittle down because people were going to they're going to change behavior, we were expecting about 5 billion. And so if government, even without e-levy, is able to save 3.5 billion, then I think that's quite significant. And I guess it's something that should boost investor confidence in the economy, given that most of these expenditure cuts, if you look at the list, most of them are recurrent expenditure. Expenditure on government appointees, expenditure on heads of SOEs, for fuel, for allowances and other benefits. These are what we call recurrent expenditure. They are not things that will not necessarily stimulate growth. They are not things that increase economic activities directly. They are things that go into recurrent expenditure and they are spent within a short time. So I think it's a very laudable policy, and I guess it's going to add to the investor confidence that will begin to build the economy following this announcement.
Well, generally, do you think that the Finance Minister met expectations in terms of what we wanted him to say during this briefing today? How far-reaching are these measures?
Yes, so I think largely on the expenditure side, the expectations were met, because what we didn't want was a blanket cut in expenditure. We wanted targeted expenditure cuts, and there were specific, particularly discretionary expenditure that we could on our own decide not to spend without any ripple effect on other sectors of the economy. So if, for instance, we had decided not to pay our interest commitment, that would have had a lot of significant impact on the economy, because lenders would have backed out of any future lending to us. But these are discretionary expenditure and recurrent expenditure. And I'm of the view that some of these expenditure cuts have been expected for a long time. We've always said that government should cut down on unproductive expenditure, review some of their flagship programs which are not productive, and spend more on things that are productive. And I think some of the items on the list are really not productive things, and if we are going to cut on those, that's going to help us a lot. Well, I guess that's on the expenditure side. Maybe on the revenue side, yes, go ahead.
No, so I was going to say, on the side of revenue, government is still banking its hopes on the e-levy.
Yeah, so I think before the announcement, the minister mentioned about 3 key things that government did not predict, which came in as a surprise at the last minute. The main thing he mentioned was the effect of minority opposition in parliament to the budget statement, particularly the e-levy. I guess what government maybe have forgotten or did not avert their mind to was that the first downgrade of the Ghanaian economy by Fitch, they mentioned that not having a clear majority in parliament was going to affect government economic policies. And so the e-levy and all the issues that came up was just a reflection of the downgrade. Because if you do not have a clear majority in parliament, some of your key and flagship programs could be frustrated in parliament. And clearly, the e-levy is a very good example. So I think government plans and most of the revenue plans, policies outlined, are what we advocated, that government should look beyond e-levy. So beyond e-levy, government had proposed in the 2022 budget that they were going to review the tax exemption regime, because there were significant revenue leakages as a result of the tax exemption regime, and there are still significant revenue leakages. So government should expedite action on that and make sure that bill is passed into law. Review of fees and charges. We have abolished road tolls. We thought that this review of fees and charges bill will be passed as early as possible so that it will compensate for the revenue loss that is being incurred on daily basis as a result of us abolishing the road tolls. I think that's something that government should also focus on. All the other revenue measures that are outlined, implementation of the revised property rate, and implementation of unified common platform for property rate administration. I think we have not been aggressive with all the other revenue measures as we have been with e-levy. And so if e-levy is taking time to implement, I think we should focus on the other revenue areas. In the budget, government was expecting a revenue of 100 billion. 9 billion, only 6 billion out of that was supposed to come from e-levy. 94 billion was supposed to come from the other revenue sources. So if government is aggressive on other revenue sources and is able to exceed targets, you wouldn't even have the adverse effect of not passing e-levy. And I think that's something that government should focus on, that all the other revenue measures that are outlined in the budget, we should be aggressive on those other revenue measures.
We just have about a minute left. You mentioned that these measures boost for investors. It will raise up confidence somewhat. For people, the Ghanaians listening, they wanted something that would give them hope, at least in the short term. You think this provides a hope?
Yeah, so I think in the short term, maybe we didn't see a lot of short-term revenue, and that's the part of the discussion we had in the first part. People were expecting some reduction in fuel cost or energy cost. We didn't see that because there has been an increase of 57% on fuel, on diesel, and 45% on petroleum. But the reduction is 1.6% and 1.4%. So in effect, there is no significant impact on the average Ghanaian. But I think what is going to happen in the long term, some of these measures that are going to be implemented, in the long term, you have the benefit. So for instance, if there's investor confidence, we'll be able to roll out some of our external debt measures, get foreign currency to come in, reduce the depreciating local currency, and that will actually have effect on prices of local commodities. And I think it will take a bit of time. It is time to tighten our belts, and the average Ghanaian should prepare for difficult times ahead. I think we are not going to say it in any uncertain terms. Times are going to be a little bit difficult for a while, but we expect that over time, as the city gets stronger, as we are able to implement some of these measures, we will have the long-term benefit and the average benefit from that.
The truth hurts. Yalati, thanks very much. Thanks very much for your thoughts tonight. We appreciate it. You're watching Business Live. Still to come, Ministry of Food and Agriculture partnering a Moroccan fertilizer company to set up a $2 billion fertilizer manufacturing plant in Ghana to deal with supply challenges.
Given what is happening to the world fertilizer market, we should be able to attract the right investment to start the construction of a fertilizer plant in Ghana. This is a huge investment. We are talking about anything around $2 billion United States dollars.
And welcome back to our program tonight. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture is partnering a OCP Group, a Moroccan fertilizer company, to set up a $2 billion fertilizer manufacturing plant in Ghana. The Greek Minister, Dr. Kwawu, could reveal this at the inauguration of the board of the National Fertilizer Council. The Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Kwawu, says fertilizer consumption by smallholder farmers jumped from 8 kilograms per hectare to 25 kilograms per hectare due to the introduction of the Planting for Food and Jobs campaign and the Ghana Fertilizer Expansion Program. Speaking at the inauguration of the board of the National Fertilizer Council, he indicated that this is set to increase as a fertilizer company will soon be established.
In the last 4 years, there has been, for the first time, surplus production of gas in our seas alongside petroleum. And we've been working to attract foreign investment to come and exploit this gas and turn it into fertilizer. We've done that in collaboration with the OCP, which is the fertilizer company of Morocco. We are very optimistic now that we should be able to, given what is happening to the world fertilizer market, we should be able to attract the right investment to start the construction of a fertilizer plant in Ghana. This is a huge investment. We are talking about anything around $2 billion United States dollars, and take it up to 4 years to build.
Chair of the board, Nana Sewa Bonso Amwako, assured of her outfit's commitment of sticking with the mandate bestowed on them in increasing consumption of organic fertilizers.
The task of this council will be to work with the Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister has just laid out the strategy of the ministry to promote organic fertilizers and to help promote and reorient our farmers to uptake the organic fertilizers because they have been used to the inorganic fertilizers for so many years. However, we are up to this task. We are also ahead in finding long-term sustainable solutions to the current fertilizer crisis. As I've mentioned, the construction of our homegrown well-scale fertilizer plant is expected to alleviate the burden of succumbing to global fertilizer price shocks as a country. Our local fertilizer manufacturing plant will ensure affordable and accessible fertilizers to our local farmers, thereby making sure that Ghana will have long-term food security.
Meanwhile, member of the board and managing director of Viara Ghana, Dankwa Adeyobo, says price of fertilizer will continue to peak as international partners have shut down due to the Russia-Ukraine war.
We have shut down our plant in Italy because of the high costs. That at the point the production cost would not make sense. For us in Ghana, we have been working extremely hard with our group to ensure that we can secure some volumes into the country. I cannot guarantee that we'll have everything we need, but at least we will have products for key moments of the season. The other bit of that is it won't be cheap. And unfortunately, it's about time we sound that very clearly to the system and also to our dear farmers.
And that story ending Business Live tonight. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Our top stories there: cedi depreciation slows down, now sells at about 7.84 cedis to the dollar. Government to pump $2 billion into the economy to curb cedi depreciation. The finance minister mentioned that. You can read more about that on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.